Hello, my name is Rodríguez-Cantelar. I work at Universidad Politécnica de Madrid, and I'm going to present the paper called Automatic Evaluation of Non-Task-Oriented Dialog System by using sentence embedding projections and their dynamics. First of all, this is the index of the presentation that follows the sections of the paper. Let's start with introduction. A brief overview of our main goals are: we create an automatic metric in order to evaluate the best chatbot answer. This metric is supported by measuring the distance between the sentence embeddings projections of each turn in the conversation. We also want to provide a visual intuitive insight in order to differentiate between good and bad conversations. We have two types of datasets. The first one is an human chatbot dialogue that was generated using a sequence-to-sequence model trained with Open Subtitles dataset. The second one are 50 randomly selected human-human dialogues that were extracted from the Persona Chat datasets and has an average of 6 turns per dialogue. Let's see in more detail the human chatbot dialogues. We performed a survey to 25 evaluators. Each of them had to evaluate 4 different dimensions: semantic, syntactic, correctness, and specificity of each chatbot answer. The scores were in a binary scale. This generates a 59 human chatbot turns that we evenly split into 6 conversations. Now we need to talk about the embeddings projections and the metrics proposed in this project. The embedding projections were created from sentence embeddings of all the turns in the conversations. These sentence embeddings were encoded using the tool ConvertRT dual encoder. This tool provides a transformer model that was pre-trained with Reddit dataset and fine-tuned for the DSTC7. We decided to use this tool because it encapsulates syntactically and semantically the information inside the sentence and dialogue histories. The first metric proposed is the prompt answer correlation. We correlate the Euclidean distance of the sentence embeddings of every human and chatbot turn pair in the dialogue, with the unbiased average score of the 4 dimensions for each chatbot answer obtained in the human evaluation. The second metric proposed is to evaluate the evolution of the dialogue. To achieve this, we calculate the relative accumulated Euclidean distance between 2 consecutive user prompts and chatbot answers, respectively, for every pair of turns in the conversation. The main idea behind this equation is that the user and the chatbot should follow together the same topic. So the sentence embeddings representations of each pair of turns will be close each other across the conversation. Good values for this formula are height, relative, and larger cumulative distance. The third metric proposed is to evaluate the coherence of the dialogue, using the cumulative Euclidean distance between the user prompt and the corresponding chatbot answer to this prompt, related with the cumulative Euclidean distance between this chatbot answer and the next user prompt in the conversation. This relation was done for every pair of turns in the conversation. This equation holds the idea that both participants in the conversation should stay in the same topic, but also need an engagement on the topic. In this case, a good coherence indicator is a high relative distance and a small cumulative distance. Let's move on to the results of the project. In this table, we can see the result obtained during our experiments. The Pearson correlation to the pairs score is only possible for the human chatbot dialogues, because we don't have human evaluation for the human-human dialogues. The value minus 0.22 is negative due to the inverse relationship between the distance from the prompt to the response and the average score. Also, this value is low because we use a binary scale, which limited participants to fine-grain evaluate the answers. For both evaluation and coherent distance, human chatbot dialogues have, on average, longer cumulative Euclidean distance and lower relative values, showing they are less engaging and coherent than the human-human ones. To better understand the results, we are going to analyze them through different examples of conversations. The best way is to interpret the results visually. The sentence embeddings projections were generated with the tool ConvertRT. Then we did a PCA bidimensional reduction in order to project them in a two-dimensional space using the Embeddings projector tool. Finally, we draw the dynamics of the dialogues in this space. There are two types of dialogues represented, the good and bad dialogues. The first one is held within the same topic, so the conversation is more engaging. The second one refers to answers that are outside of the spoken topic. Now we are going to analyze some evolution examples. This is a good evolution example for the human chatbot dialogue of the figure at the right. The blue circles and the solid lines correspond to the prompts. The red squares and dashed lines indicate the answers. As we can see, the relative distance is very high, almost 1. This means that the cumulative distance of the blue lines is very similar to the cumulative distance of the red lines. This conversation corresponds to a human-human dialogue. In this case, the relative distance is lower than the previous case, but still high. The evolution of both blue and red lines follow a similar pattern, showing a good evolution of the conversation due to human 1 and 2 stay focused on the same topics. Here we notice that human 2 changed the topic. This is representing prompt P3 and the answer R3. So the human 1 moved to that position to follow the conversation, representing prompt P4. Same is happening here, but now human 1 is changing the topic and human 2 is following human 1 to that position. In this case, we can see a bad human chatbot dialogue evolution with a low relative distance. Both start in a very close position, but then the chatbot answers generic sentence that doesn't really match to the human perspective. Let's see another bad case. Now for human-human conversation. Same as before, relative distance is low. Both humans are not sharing the topics, so the evolution of the conversation is bad. Now we are going to analyze the coherence for the same dialogues. In the next figures, the blue circle and solid line connect to the prompts with the consecutive response, and the red square and dashed line connect to the answers to the next respective prompt. In this good human chatbot dialogue example, the relative accumulative distance for the coherence is higher by far than the bad examples. In this figure, the human and the chatbot make small jumps in the conversation, providing that this conversation has a good coherence between them. For the good human-human dialogue, the relative distance is a little bit higher than the previous example. The local Euclidean distance between human 1 and human 2 are very short. In this local area, we can see that both humans are talking about the same topic. Then human 2 moves to a new topic, represented with the square R3. The human 1 follows the human 2 to this new topic and continue the conversation for a few turns. At the end, human 1 changes again the topic, and the human 2 follow the conversation. In this bad human chatbot dialogue example, the relative accumulative distance is very low. The conversation starts with a high coherence for a few turns. In the representation, we can see small jumps between turns, but suddenly the turn distance gets longer, showing that there is a constant change of topic, and therefore a bad coherence. The same happens for the bad human-human dialogue example. The relative distance is low, and the distance between each turn is high, because they are changing the topic very quickly, accordingly showing low consistency. To finish, let's talk about the conclusions and the future work. In this project, we use the cumulative distance and the sentence embedding projections and their dynamics for each turn represented on the figures. These are preliminary results for quality, coherence, and evolution for open-domain conversations. We have to highlight that we only use the relative distance for our metrics, but this has limitations. We should add sentence embedding orientation to our metrics. As future work, we want to perform more experiments on additional datasets to confirm that the proposed metrics are robust and can be generalizable. We also want to encode the sentence using other models and also try new projection techniques to evaluate the consistency of the metrics. Finally, in order to improve the breakdowns and transition between topics, we are going to enhance the visualization process by superposing automatically detected topic clusters. Thank you very much for your attention and goodbye.